Hi, I'm Shadow of Shadow Gaming, bringing you Programming with Shadow. In today's video, we were going to be talking about arrays. So, in C Sharp, an array is basically a in C Sharp, an array is basically a set of variables. So you can have in most programming languages, not just C Sharp, but in C Sharp, it's a set of variables. So like normally we've had something like um we've had something like var1 to int var1, int var2, int var3. And each one of them would create a new variable, and there's no, or in the computer, they get stored in memory. There's no guarantee in what order they're going to be in. An array is not like that. An array is everything's contiguous in memory. Everything's one after another. So you can do different things with arrays that you can't do with variables, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's do this cd dot. Let's do a array testing. Dot net new console. Code dot. All right, so here we have a new project. Let's begin with the declare an array. Let's do we'll start with an integer array. So let's do var1, var2, var3. We've seen that syntax before, where now we should have three variables. Let's set on to 2, 3. Now if we do console.write line var1 equals var1. Let's just copy that 3 times. So now if we actually run this, and it's the first run of the day, so this will take just a moment. We'll see it prints out var1 equals 1, var2 equals 2, and var3 equals 3. And of course, first run takes it. So when it eventually does print out, see that. There we go. So an array is declared like this. So int square brackets. Square brackets are the array symbol. We read this as an array of integers. Here's a new keyword we haven't seen, new. You can think of it as saying create a new array. In reality, it's a new object, but we'll talk about objects. So now we're going to do a new array. This is not going to compile. So this is going to tell us that you need to give an array an array creation must have an array size or an array initial. So size, we could do like this. We could say 3. Now it'll run, but the array is not all that useful. I think we might even get it. Let's do. So right now, when it creates the array, it'll have initial values. So copy this. Let's change. Let's see, Control Shift Alt and down to array bracket. That's how we'll access an array. There's a subtle problem here, and I'm not going to explain it just yet. There's a problem here, and we'll show it first. Unhandled exception. Text was out of bounds of the array. So what does that mean? It looks like 1 and 2 worked, but we got to the third one and something went wrong. So in C#, as with strings, arrays are indexed from 0. So if we change this to this, this is our 3 values. That's so this will do what we expect here. You notice they're all 0. They get the default value, whatever that is. So the default value for an integer is 0. So, okay, so there's just an array, and we now know it starts from 0. Like I said, that's the most common thing you see with an array is when you're starting is you'll start from 1 instead of 0, and then everything will be off. Because it starts with 0, it also leads to a problem called here I started with 1, 2, 3, and it's basically an off by 1 error. You'll either be too high or too low by 1 value, and arrays are common with that, and that's some of the more common ones you'll see in dealing with an array. Let's look at setting values though. So let's say we want these to be 1, 2, and 3. Here's what we can do. So to access an array element 0 equals 1, array element 1 equals 2, and array element 2 equals 3. Now these will match. The values will match. Like, okay, that's all right, but that doesn't look any more efficient than this. So how would we use arrays? So this doesn't look efficient because we're setting this. But where the efficiency comes in is how you can use them. For variables, we're going to have to do like this. There's not a lot else we can do. An array, though, we can loop over an array. So instead of printing it like we did here, let's do a console right line here just to separate the sections. Now let's do a for loop. For int I equals 0, I less than array dot length. So as with strings last time, arrays have a length process or length property as well. A term left me. That tells you how many values are in it. We should check that as well. So let's add that. Do console.write line array length equals array.length. And we'll see it's 3 because we declared it as 3 up here. So what this is going to do is it's going to start at 0 and say while I is less than 3, loop through. What we want to loop through here is to do console.write line array at. So here's the thing. So I here is easy on this one. I equals array at. So there, it's easy. We don't have to worry about doing anything. A lot of times with arrays, you might need to make an adjustment. We'll see that here in just a second. This, if I did this right, should print out the same values as we see up there. There's the length of 3, and then these look pretty similar. That's pretty nice. So for us, that makes sense. For someone using it, that probably doesn't make sense. Why is it starting at 0? Programming, you'll see that that's a lot of the case. In fact, programming languages that don't do this are the ones that often feel odd. It's just because you get so used to it. In reality, starting from 0 like this is probably an odd decision, but you'll get used to it. if you need to present the information, the I here doesn't have to match what you're printing each time, so you could do something like this. Now it'll be more in the human format, but less programming format. You can do things like that. So let's make this a little better. Do a second array. Do a string array. So say words equals new string. So we could do that, and then we could initialize the array like this. This is just a standard. You're declaring the size of the array and then putting the values in. Another thing you can do is you can initialize it, or use array initialization. To do that, you use these brackets. Now I'm initializing it with nothing. So let's do a first, second, and third. Second fail. If I've got that right, which I think I do, but we'll see in just a second. Is that right? Wait a minute. Let's run it and see. It's been a while since I've actually done an array initialization. But yeah, I think that's right. Now we can do something like this instead. Let's do words at I. Maybe something like this. So now we've changed what our phrasing here is. Raise first value. Put extra or single quote there. So, but it says arrays first value, second value, and third value. There we have an array of just the words here, or a string array. And if you do string, these end up being null instead of we might think it should be empty. It's actually null in that case. You'd have to declare it as you wanted it. So that's the way. Another way you can declare an array. And up until recently, this was the way to do it. Like you could do one of these two. Now you can actually use square brackets as well. See, this does the same thing. This is what I'm going to recommend you do most of the time, because it's the same thing, and this syntax makes it, to me, it makes more sense. It's like it's an array of these values and put them in this array. So this is what I'm seeing more of now that it's available. Like I said, up until recently, it hasn't been available, but now part of C#. There we've seen another way of declaring it. So here's length. Let's see what else. I think that's all the basics here. I actually wanted to first off. Let's go look at something else. The last time we looked at strings, and I left a little comment here at the end of split to be returned to soon. String split is another way you can deal with a string, and it just so happens that it returns in a string array. So let's do that. So string split string equal. I need the string I'm going to split. Let's do string equals. This is a string I am going to split into multiple parts. Alright, so probably this isn't going to be a good example, but I'm going to use this as an example. String dot split. Let's split it on the word that. Let's see if I got this right. I may not have the syntax. So what I want to do is just to create us this. Let's do a for loop here. Let's do for int I equals 0, I less than split string dot length I equals plus. Here, let's just do a right line. The initial string add the. Now in here, let's do right line. Let's just print split string at. So each one should be on its own line, and that we should see that. But let's see. They usually split on a single character rather than strings, but I think strings should. Implementation. Yeah, string should work. So let's do that. Here, we run this. Let's see if we don't get our going to remove that though. Yeah. Let's add a space after that. Just remove that space as well. So what I'm doing here, I'm splitting the two strings into their respective phrases, just because, just to show split. It lets you specify a string, a character, set of characters, and it's what you want to split your string into groups of. And that can be useful if you're parsing input, like you can split it in multiple parts and break down each part, and that's where I see it most frequently. You can say how many you expect to get. Let's see what there. Now I'm saying it. Wait a minute. So now I expect there's to be 3 parts, but there's not. So let's see what happens. Like, not a lot happened. So add another of that. Now there's 3 parts, so we should see that. Respect that. There we go. Now let's say it's let's say we're just expecting 2. Now I think we'll see it combine the last one. Yeah, it doesn't care for the last one because it already found its 2. That's what that's the. I've used that before and had reason to use it. There's also a split options if something's going to be empty. Let's say we have a list of that. Do comment out my string here and do string equals 1, 3, 5, 9. Let's skip 7. Let's split on comma this time. I don't know the size, so we'll just go with this. Here, we're going to see we should have an empty line. There we go. 7's missing. There's string split options as well, not just count. So, string split options. Pull this up. Possible values are split options none, which is what it does if you don't provide this. There's remove empty entries. This will get rid of the space here. There we go. Now it removed an empty string there. And also do trim entries. So this will do some cleanup. Let's say there's some spaces in here that shouldn't be. So here, now let's do it without let's do it with none first, just so we see the behavior, and then we'll add it. There, everything's all odd. Let's switch back to trim entries. Now it looks like we did before, but then you can combine these two. So these are I think they're called flags, or maybe flag attributes, something like that. What you can do here is you can put a little bar here. That stands for OR. So string split options dot remove empty entries. So without going into the detail, this says do this one. It's basically you're doing them both. The OR here is what allows you to do both. What's happening is if you do binary arithmetic, you're ORing the two numbers together. They're like 1 and 2, and each one of them would be like in a different position. So let's say 1 is 0, 1. The other is, I don't know that it's these numbers. It's probably a much bigger number. But when you OR something together, so OR, what you get is you get anywhere that you look at them column by column, and anywhere that the columns are 1, they become a 1. We'll probably look at binary arithmetic eventually, but that's what's happening here. Is now this looks like a 3 that a computer knows to apply both of them. And this is occasionally useful. Like I've seen this before and used had to do stuff like this before. You might run into it occasionally. And like I said, we'll probably look into binary arithmetic eventually, but not just yet. For now, this is enough for what we're going to do here. So now we should see this string with the trimmed and the empty entries removed, if I did this right. Yes. So occasionally I've ran into that and seen it used. That's pretty much the basics of what I wanted to cover with an array. Let's talk about types of array next. Console.clear. Console.clear, it's going to, when you run it, you're not going to see anything, and that stuff's still there. It just got cleared, got hidden. It didn't. Okay, so it actually does remove it. Okay, good. Okay, so it removes it, so we can continue. So second type of array. So these are called single dimensional arrays. Because there's one dimension, one set of values. You can think of it as like a list, like the values go like 1, 1, 1. So forth, as many values as you would want. Another type of array, let's call it single dimension. Another type of array is the multi-dimensional array. So that to declare it, you do something like this. I think it would be bidimensional, be the classification. It's multi-dimensional array, basically, is how you would normally say this, and this is 2 dimensions. I think technically this is correct, but this is fine. You declare that just like that. You put 2 sizes. These are occasionally used. In general, I've not found them to be that useful. I've done puzzles where you're solving a grid, and that's where I've used these at. But for the most part, single dimensions is what you usually want. I did one here. You can do more. You just start adding more commas and more values, and you can get more. Let's just call it multi-dimensional. So, like I said, where I've seen them be used for is for a grid. That may be one of the upcoming one of our upcoming projects might be to do a little bit of messing around with a grid of values. I might leave that for then and say you need to, if you've heard of multi-dimensional, or if you need an array where you need a grid of values, multi-dimensional may be what you want to do. So that would be something like 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5. So this would be 2, 4, and 4. This is saying when you want to forward. Now I don't remember which order these go in. It's just the 0. We should do a whole lesson on multi-dimensional arrays so I can learn them. It's one of them every time I use them, this keeps getting me confused. So I think it's row first and then column. Let's test that. So here's how you would use this. For var row equals 0, row less than multi-dimensional array dot. So multi-dimensional array, or regular arrays also have some of these methods, but multi-dimensionals have. I'm pulling them up to. Sorry, should have already pulled it up. Unfortunately, I can't find the methods. Here we go. Properties. So the property we want here is the length tells you the number of directions in all dimensions. So the length here would be 12. So that's not what we want. Let's do console.writeLine. We should see 4 times 12. So the value we want here is rank. Oh, wait a minute. No, that is not right. Wait a minute. I'm thinking of the wrong. The rank's going to tell you this number, how many dimensions. So this would be a rank of 1. This would be a rank of. I am thinking of an actual. What am I thinking? Yeah, get length. There we go. That sounds correct. So get length you do in pass it in 0 for the first dimension, 1 for the second dimension, and you use that to pick however many or what dimension you're looking at. So here I'm saying rows the first dimension. Row plus plus. On the inside now, we have a nested for loop for call, standing for column. Seems like there's a gotcha here as well. I think this may need to be less than or equal to. We'll find out very soon. So here, let's say array at row call equals let's add them together. Let's do row call. I think this will be what we're wanting. And we should print this as well, shouldn't we? So here, let's print the value we did here. So let's do fill out right line. I'm trying to print the grid just like I did there. Let's see. Dimensional array at row all. We want to add a comment on the. That becomes. I needed to thought more through how I was drawing this. So let's not do that. Let's just do make it simpler for the moment and just do spaces. We'll worry about spaces later. Like I said, this might be a good actual project to do something more complicated with this. So right now I'm just going to assume there's a space after each of them and go with that. That's going to be easy enough to test. So we'll do that for each row. This should be right. It's the right line. Then the next row would need to come down a row. We'll do console.WriteLine. And then we'll increment the value. Like I said, I think this is going to almost work, but I think it's going to be one off. Like I think there's only going to be 2 values here. So let's see. Multi-dimensional does not exist on multi-dimensional array. Okay, that actually did it, but as you can see, I've got the dimensions right. Should be, and yeah, that makes sense. So 3 rows, 4 columns. So yeah, of course, I got it wrong. Shows you how much I use the multi-dimensional arrays. Most of the time, if I've needed a multi-dimensional array, I've been able to get around it by using. In fact, the most recent time I've used multi-dimensional arrays, I had to actually convert them to. So you may not see these too often, but you may try to make. Like I said, I think that'd be a good one to make a grid and maybe try to do something. Try to do something. I'll think about it and maybe a future project. That's a multi-dimensional array though, so you can do more than this. I personally find it hard to conceptualize. You get more because it changed from a list of values to a grid of values, and you add another dimension, you'd be thinking about a grid, multiple grids, and you're addressing them, and it gets harder to conceptualize. But once in a while, you'll see someone that's used them, and it really makes sense. I don't have a good example of that right now. I may try to think of. Let's talk about jagged arrays. So this is a third type, and I think it's the last type. Well, there might be other types. One other thing, there's other methods you can do on arrays. Right here I use getLength and a length property. There's other things you can use as well. We may actually see some of that stuff eventually. The last type of array, though, is called a jagged array. So I haven't personally used these in C#, but it looks something like this. You can think of it as an array of arrays. not sure if you have to do size. I feel like you do. It's like I feel like you don't have to do size, but then at the same time I feel like you do. So let's see what happens. Let's see if it throws an exception here first. I was thinking maybe the last one you don't have to say the size. Yeah. I don't know why that is. I'd have to think on that. Let's do some values though. Let's say jagged array at 0. We have 3 jagged arrays just like before. 0 equals, and what goes in here is a new array. So saying it's an array, and let's do 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do 3 here. Let's copy, paste. 2, be a 1, 4, 2. Get rid of this. So here, that each length can be different sizes. Let's see if that. Of course, I didn't print it. Let's do a console.writeLine. Oh, let's do a console.clear. Now let's do what do I want to do? For equals 0, I less than jagged array dot length plus. So now we're in each jagged array. So now for I equal, I have to use j equals 0, j less than jagged array at I dot length. So now we're saying length of the individual ones, j plus plus. Now we can do console.writeLine. Let's do like this. Jagged array at I jagged value j equals jagged array at I j. I think this will give us what we want. Let's see. Let's run it and see. I need data space. Well, that did do what we want. You can see here the lengths are different. Let's print it like this here. Let's print that maybe with the spaces like we did before. So that works. Let's do, instead of this though, let's do right. Now let's do jagged array at I j. So this will do it, but we're not going to have any spaces, so let's add a space. Like I said, I don't like having the ending space, but this will work for a simple example. Not work it. What is this? Wait a minute. Did that what? Yeah, okay. Interesting. Do a space here. Does this work? Yeah. Okay, so what happened was when I did character, it added the characters to the array there. That's why this number's bigger than that is. But I added whatever the space character value is. I actually don't know right offhand what that is, but that is not what I wanted. Now we do a right line to get them on separate lines, and now I have that general format. We got some time. Let's clean this up a little. Let's do console.write. So let's start with a bracket. Let's end with one as well. So now that makes it a little better, if I got it right. Okay, so now we have the extra space. So let's deal with that space. I'm doing this because I still have some time. That's pretty much all. This is pretty much all the content I wanted to cover, but let's see if we can't clean up the spaces. So what we could do could change it to do while loop and do it count the other way. I think last time we talked about string join. Let's make sure I talked about it. I did not. So let's talk about string join today. So string join, let's use pull it up and find the actual what it says. Join. A lot of joins. We'll use this. Okay. Concatenate some members of a collection. So the array here is a collection. We'll learn more about collections later. We can think of an array as a collection of values, and that's how you'll see the terminology of some in C#. So let's do this. Let's say now we don't need these rights. We need the bottom one. We don't need that. We don't even need this one, I don't think. Let's do that. So now this is now right line. String.join. So the character I'm going to join on is comma. And the array here is jagged array at I. So that says give me each row. Now let's add the brackets around this. So concatenate this onto the front, concatenate this onto the end. Let's see if this may not work. I may need to do one more. If we get the funny numbers, it didn't work. It did too many times. Oh, yeah. It's doing the loop for us. We don't need the inner loop. That's the issue. So let's remove the inner loop. Now, that looks very similar to what we did up here. You can even add a semicolon if we'd like. There we go. There's a new string method we haven't seen yet either. String join. So it takes a character, or I think you can use a string here. It's a separator, basically, what you want to separate the individual values here in this collection. So my collection here is jagged array. We could use that up here in the multi-dimensional array as well and do it and get rid of that space. I feel pretty good with that as a point though. We've now seen a string join. It'll feel like you don't really see how you're going to use it, and then suddenly it's useful, and then suddenly you notice it you notice it a lot. That's how I've seen it, and I actually know of another person that said the same. Because right first offhand, making this look like this doesn't. We'll look at some like I said, if we look at problems, eventually we'll start using some of this stuff a little more. In fact, I think for the next lesson, I want to do a number conversion. So take base 10 and convert it to decimal. Maybe binary. I'll decide on one of those two. I think that'll be the next lesson and the next project. Just want to do that so get to thinking about numbers and conversions a little bit. We looked at binary just a little bit today. I don't think I want to do any more binary, but we'll see. I think that's all I want to talk about with arrays, though. So we'll go ahead and cut this lesson. It'll be a little short. So in today's lesson, we looked at arrays and how you can use an array to replace a set of values. I have 3 variables here. I have an array of 3 here, or 3 values. Arrays have a length, tells you how many there are. The utility of an array is that it lets you loop over it. So C# collections are what actually let you loop over them, and array is a collection. Let us loop over it, and we just say array at this index. Gives us a value, and that value is usually called an element. I actually don't know if that's true in C#. Yeah, I see an element here in the documentation. So element. We learned there's strings. We looked at string split. It's similar to last lesson. A method on strings. It lets you split it into an array of strings, different values. There's string split options. Then we looked at dimensionality. So we looked at single dimensional arrays. That's an array that looks like a list. Then we looked at multi-dimensional arrays. That's arrays that look like a grid. And then we looked at jagged arrays. That's arrays that look like this, like arrays of arrays. I think that one should be useful. Like I could see the utility of it. I just don't think I've ever actually seen it actually being used. One final thing we looked at was string join here. It's just a way to take a collection and put some kind of separator in between them. So in next lesson, we're gonna build a program. Like I said, the program we're gonna do, we'll take in a base 10 number, so a decimal number, so like our normal counting, and it'll convert it into another type of number called probably maybe binary, but one or the other. We're gonna use that. I'm trying to think if it'll use arrays. I'll have to think on that one. May not use arrays, but I'm planning two exercises in a row, and second one I'm planning on using the arrays, so I might have to hold off on actually using the arrays one more time. That's pretty much all I wanted to cover today, so we'll finish on time today actually. So if you're running into a problem where you need multiple values, think array, and Microsoft documentation on arrays are pretty decent. To be honest, I didn't read through it as thoroughly as I should, but I think it makes pretty good sense. Yeah, that's pretty much where I want to stop today. So thanks for watching, and go ahead and close it. Thanks for watching, and have a wonderful day.